Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my May wrap up part 2. I will link part 1 below, and this time we have 12 books to talk about, but 8 of them are picture books. So hopefully this will go a little quicker than part 1 because I had over an hour footage for that part that I managed to edit down to 33 minutes. And I don't want to have to do that again. Let's start with To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Bonnequill Blackgoose. I heard about this on TikTok as a better alternative to Fourth Wing. If you want to know more about Fourth Wing, Marinez of My Name is Marinez did like an hour-long vlog style video about it, which is quite funny because she did not like it. And the reason that it's similar to this book is that it is about someone being forced to go to a dragon riding school. But it's by an indigenous author, and it is about an indigenous 15-year-old who discovers a dragon egg on the island where she lives. The dragon hatches, and in the way of her people, the dragon is given the option of choosing from the whole village who should be the dragon's person, and she is chosen. This, by the way, is a YA that reads a lot like middle grade, which is not to say that it feels immature. Middle grade is my favorite age range, and in fact I find that characters in middle grade books tend to actually act more mature than characters in YA books. At least they think more like I do. But this is a 15-year-old who I think acts very logically, and I like that. Because her people have been colonized, she has to report this dragon to the authorities, and they then say that she has to go to this dragoneering school to learn how to interact with a dragon in the way that they colonizers do. The colonizers are called English, but this is kind of set in another world or an alternate history type of a thing. I'm kind of confused whether it's a secondary world or this world, because it's a lot like this world but different. But that's not really important. It's about colonization and indigenous wisdom and racism and sexism, as the English society is quite sexist. It's really lovely. I love the characters. There is an autistic coded character who our main character, Anarchist, makes friends with, and I really like the way that she treats him. She treats him much better than pretty much all the English people around him, and yeah, I thought that representation was done really well. It was more overt than a lot of autistic coding, so I think that it was done on purpose. But I couldn't find in the description of the book or anything whether the author says yes, this character is autistic or not. But I loved how he was done. I also loved her other friends. She also has 2 love interests. She is bi and polyamorous. I also love the dragon classes portions. She deals with teachers who are jerks and racist and sexist, and ones who are not, ones who are pretty great. I really like her dragon as well, and the dragons of her friends. They're all fairly young dragons, and I like the way that they interact with their keepers or dragoneers, and the way they interact with each other is quite cute. And yeah, I just had a really lovely time, and I was never bored, even though it's like a 18-hour audiobook. Then this is The Way the World Ends by Jen Wilde. This is by an autistic author, has an autistic main character. She is a scholarship student to fancy school. Pretty sure it's high school, not college. And she has an ex-girlfriend who ghosted her, who is the daughter of one of the, the president of the school. And she's also got a burgeoning friendship with one of the rich people who goes to school, and is friends with a couple of other scholarship students. This takes place at a fancy party where our main character goes in the place of the rich girl she has a new friendship with, and is able to do so because it's a masquerade ball, and weird stuff starts happening at the ball, and actually starts happening the day before the ball. And there's like conspiracy, technology all stops working at once. It's quite creepy and scary. I think it's a thriller. So it's very different than the other book I've read by Jen Wilde, which was Queens of Geek. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. Thrillers aren't my favorite genre, but I think I enjoyed it as much as I would ever enjoy a thriller. I think it was well done, and had some very interesting, very convoluted character relationships. And I gave This Is How the World Ends 4 stars. Then we have Our Migrant Souls, a meditation on race and the meanings and myths of Latino. Something like that is the subtitle, by Hector Tobar. This is divided into 2 parts. So one is mostly meditation specifically from the author, and then the second part is more interviews and experiences of all sorts of different people. He traveled across the US and kind of talked to different people about their experiences with being Latina, and their experiences with being immigrants. And my favorite part was the interview portion with all of the different ideas, and talking about all these different experiences, although his meditations in the first part were also interesting. And I gave Our Migrant Souls 4 stars. I heard about this one from Cynthia, who I will also link below. Then I still wanted to listen to audiobooks, but I wanted to work on my physical library TBR. So I looked up what I had physically that I could also listen to on audiobook, and Shipwrecked was one of those options. I got this because I heard that both characters are plus size, whereas in a lot of romances that feature plus size characters, only one of them will be plus size. So I thought that was really cool. This is the third in the series that Olivia Dade has written that are all kind of about geek culture. So in this case, it is 2 TV show stars who have a one-night stand when they're in the same hotel, but they don't know that the reason they're in the same hotel is because they're both auditioning for parts in the same TV show the next day. And so it makes things a little bit awkward when they're auditioning across from each other in the next day, because the parts they're auditioning for are 2 love interests who are going to be stranded on an island. So they both end up getting the parts, and then they're stuck on this island together, and have to work out the kind of issues that they have with each other over he's irritated because she only wanted the one-night stand with him and he liked her more than that, and she's irritated with him because he was a massive jerk to her afterwards. Yeah, he's a bit of a unlikable person at the beginning, but he quickly turns it around and grovels sufficiently, in my opinion. And after that, he just shows himself to be a very sweet person. But they kind of decide semi-mutually to put off their relationship, because they both figure out they're starting to like each other, because they're going to be working to each other together for possibly years on this TV show, and it would make it really awkward if they broke up. So we see them working together in their first year of filming, and how they look out for each other and grow to like each other. And we also see the showrunners try to get them both to lose weight to make it more realistic, that they are stranded on this island and can't find food over the winter. And she says no, she's not going to do that. That's extremely unhealthy. And she tries to get him to stand up with her, but he won't. So that kind of causes a rift between them. And it kind of shows something that is a recurring problem between them, which is that he values his career over pretty much everything, including his own health and all of his relationships, whereas she thinks that a job is just a job and her life and happiness are more important. So I like how that fundamental disagreement and different values was introduced early on and continued to crop up throughout the book. Something that's weird about this book is that there is a 6-year gap that was skipped over. We skipped from the end of the first season to the end of the last season, because they have been maintaining this we're not gonna have a relationship while we work together thing. So yeah, I thought in the beginning from the description that it was going to be a forced proximity thing where they would have that relationship within the first year while they were stuck on this island filming together, but it ended up being different than that. So I actually think I like the direction that went better than what I thought it was going to do. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really liked both characters, so I gave Shipwrecked 4 stars. Then we have my collection of picture books. Most of these I got from a recommendation video of Sims for API Heritage Month. So let's start with my favorite one, Drawn Together. This is about a boy and his grandfather who have a language barrier. The kid speaks English and the grandpa does not. They aren't able to communicate very much, but the grandpa, you know, feeds him the foods he likes while grandpa eats food that he's more used to. And they watch movies together, but what I think would have been a good idea for them to do is to watch something that is like the language grandpa speaks spoken out loud and then has like English subtitles or something. That would have been maybe interesting, but they watch something entirely in grandpa's language and the kid doesn't know what's going on. So he gets out of his backpack his drawing supplies, and his grandpa sees this and goes and gets his own drawing supplies. And so it's about them bonding over drawing and using drawing to communicate with each other. And I like fully sobbed while I was reading this. Draw all these cool monsters as well as themselves and learn about each other's drawing styles, and it's just really, really sweet. And I highly recommend it if you want to have an emotional time. I'm gonna go ahead and say that all of these picture books are 5 stars. No notes. No critiques of any of these. Next is Gibberish, which has kind of a similar theme. It's by Young Vo, and it is about a boy who doesn't speak English, and he is going to school where they speak English only for the first time, and having a first day where he doesn't understand anything that's going on because everything anyone says to him is gibberish. And he's drawn like as a human looking person, but everybody else is drawn as like these creatures, basically because kind of to show that they're like alien to him because he doesn't understand anything they're saying. He's walking along, and at recess one of the kids jumps down and introduces herself, and though he doesn't understand, she drags him off to play anyway. Neither of them minded that they couldn't understand what's being said with words. They were able to figure out their own way to communicate, and they communicated through actions and gestures, and later on through pictures, as she draws things and then says the word for them in English. And slowly she goes from black and white to color, and also her features morph so that she's more human looking. And yeah, I really love how the book used illustrations to convey how his world opened up. So yeah, I really love that. Then we have Juno Valentine and the Magical Shoes, which is about a girl who can't find her favorite shoes that are the most comfortable. So she goes deep in her closet and discovers a portal to all the shoes of history, including Cleopatra's and Frida Kahlo's, and this whole list of women who wore interesting shoes, or shoes that like told something about what kind of their profession was. So it kind of talks about a bunch of cool women that you can then go learn more about with your kid who you're reading this with, or by yourself, because there was actually one woman who I didn't know about who was the first black prima ballerina. Is that what she was called? First black principal dancer in American ballet theater's history, Misty Copeland. So yeah, that was very cool, and it's kind of about how shoes express your personality and kind of how cool shoe fashion is, so that was cool as well. Eyes That Kiss in the Corners and Eyes That Speak to the Stars. These are sort of companion books. This is the first one that came out. It is about a girl who notices that her eyes are different from the white kids she goes to school with, and her mother talks to her about how her eyes are wonderful and they are just like her, and the girl's eyes are just like her mother's, and they're just like her grandmother's and her little sister's, and it's kind of about the family all having things in common and how beautiful their eyes are. And this one is basically the boy's version, and he talks to his dad and compares his eyes to his grandpa's and his little brother's. And yeah, those are both very sweet. Then we have Nana, Nenek, and Nina, and this is about a girl who has one grandma from the UK and one grandma from Malaysia, who both currently live in those countries. So she goes to visit her Nana and her Nenek, and it kind of compares and contrasts things that go on in the different places with different people. So she dresses warmly when she goes to see Nana, and she dresses to be more cool with Nenek. Oh, and Nana has a dog and Nenek has a cat, and I like that as well. And it shows the different foods that they shop for, and talks about how she does very similar activities at each place that are just slightly different. So she helps in the garden with both grandmas, but in a slightly different way each place. And she plays games with each of her grandmas, but they're different games. And she goes to the beach with both grandmas, but one's a very cold beach and one's a hot beach. A lot of the point of it, I feel like, is how things can be different without one being better or worse than the other. Then we have two that I got for the Spoonies readathon. One is This Speech is Loud, which is about a kid with sensory sensitivities, specifically who's autistic. And this is about an autistic kid going to the beach, and the beach is very loud and generally overstimulating. So like, the sand is in his shoes, and when he takes off his shoes, because there's sand in them, the sand is hot, and there's just a lot of overstimulating stuff going on. And so his dad helps him to stim to regulate himself. And I personally would have liked if it shown some kind of assistive technology like headphones, because often just stimming is not enough to cancel out overstimulation. But it did do a good job of explaining what overstimulation is and showing one way that autistic kids cope with that. It is by an autistic author. Then What Happened to You by James Catchpole and illustrated by Karen George. This is about a kid who has one leg, and people keep asking him, what happened to you? And they start making up stories about what could have happened. They're fairly ridiculous stories, and them asking so much bothers him, but eventually the kids realize that more important than what happened to the kid's leg is the fact that there are crocodiles and sharks in the water below them, because they are all pirates. So it was pretty enjoyable. I heard about this one I think from Jessica Kilburn-Fozzard, because she was talking about how she's introducing her one, now 2-year-old to different disabilities before he goes off to school and actually meets other kids who might be disabled. Just normalize it for him. And I think this would do a good job of that. So that's what I read in the second half of May. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know how May ended up going for you, and any Pride Month plans. I'm going to be taking part in at least one Pride Month readathon, and I think I'm going to be vlogging. So that should be fun. If you'd like to leave an emoji, how about a drawing implement for Drawn Together? Bye!